Welcome to Drone Brothers Radio, where we explore the crossroads of entrepreneurship, drone innovation, and the construction industry. Join us as we share insights, stories, and strategies shaping the future from the sky and the ground up.
Welcome to Drone Brothers Radio. For some of you that have been here before, this used to be called our Hangar Talk. We put it on hold a couple of years back, and we're relaunching as Drone Brothers Radio, so we're excited to have everyone here. My name is Andy Wolfe, and special guest is Lee Fisher, who's going to talk about aviation safety, and which is great timing because this is National Safety Month, so perfect timing for June kickoff. A little bit about us. For those that don't know, we've been in business. This is our 12th year in business. We're focused exclusively on the construction industry as a nationwide leader in the space, and we work with some of the largest general contractors who in turn work with some of these large retails companies like Amazon and Costco and Home Depots and Topgolfs and Targets. We're shooting a lot of big industrial and retail spaces. We call ourselves a DSP Plus, which is a Drone Service Provider Plus. We are a nationwide company. We have over 350 pilots that are on board. Our focus and goal is to give our clients kind of one-click access to everything, all the jobs we do, and give them a consistent deliverable. And our focus, as of probably 4 years ago or 5 years ago now, we decided to specialize in the construction industry only. So site documentation, site mapping, progress tracking. We've got an enterprise contract with Drone Deploy, so we use their software to help out with modeling and 360 interior scans as well. This month, we're just going to quick overview. We'll spend a couple minutes on an entrepreneurial tip, and the tip for this month is LinkedIn. We are big users of LinkedIn, fell in love with LinkedIn about 4 years ago and upgraded to a Sales Navigator license. But let me go through and teach us a few of the things that I've learned over the last few years with LinkedIn. So number one, your about section. A lot of people need to spend a little bit of time on your About Me section on the LinkedIn page. So we open that page up now. This is think of this as kind of a highlight reel for you. So if we scroll down to the About section, you want to make this really personable. You want to make this really relatable. You want to share with people your why. This isn't a place to sell anything and promote anything. You want to get really personal. People care about the personal stories, the personalities behind people. So my tip to you is spend a little time. If you got to use ChatGPT to help you write some content, write a few paragraphs about yourself, make it personal, make it relatable, and tell people your why you're in the business every day. Tip number 2 is make your headline impressive. So just below your name, you will see a little headline, and you want to make this something that's impressive. You want think of this as a billboard. You've got a small little space to really hit home, kind of a few keywords to help tell your story. So tell them what you do and how you can add value. You've got a really short area here to get to people, but tell them what you do and how you add value to their lives. So that's the headline section. The third tip is industry tags. So if we go to your profile and you click on the edit button in your profile, you can scroll down and there's a section called industry. So this is a real easy one. It takes about 10 seconds to correct, but add in something related to the industry that you're in. LinkedIn uses this for searches. And it's a really key point for LinkedIn toggles off of this. So put in something important to your industry: surveying, construction, residential real estate, photography, something key about your business, but you want to select an industry that you're part of. All right, next tip is teach, don't preach. People on LinkedIn want to learn. They want to be educated. People love to learn new things. So share some lessons. You don't want to be preaching. You definitely don't want to be doing anything political. I see people out doing political stuff. Leave that on your Facebook page. Leave that on the some other medium. LinkedIn is about business to business and helping. We're here to help each other. So teach, don't preach. Share some lessons that you've learned on a job site. Ultimately, in the end, if people read this and they learn from you, this builds trust with your viewers and people that you're connected with. Number 5, share and tell stories from the field. Learn to be a really great storyteller. Share behind the scenes. If you're doing construction work, you're on a job site and you learn something new that day, share a tip. Also, think about always sharing some kind of a visual. We do a lot of video on our site, but you can put a simple photo out there. You've got your phone with you out on the job site, so snap a picture, snap a short little video, do a little selfie, and tell a story. But share something you've learned from the field on as a LinkedIn post. Number 6, engage in the first hour. In the first hour of something going up, if someone makes a comment, or someone likes you, or someone tags you back, you want to engage with them in the first hour. If you can put the LinkedIn app on your phone or on your iPad because you're on the road, you're not in front of your computer all the time, turn notifications on so you're getting notifications. But LinkedIn likes it when you comment back quickly when someone engages with you. Even if you comment back, if someone leaves a comment, even if you reply back with a simple thanks, it all helps in building out connections and putting your higher up on the LinkedIn SEO. LinkedIn is a great networking tool. It is the single best networking tool, an entrepreneurial tool I've ever found in all my years of being an entrepreneur. Find other people to connect with. Find fellow pilots to connect with because they all have good ideas. We're not in competition with our fellow pilots. We're all here to support each other and help each other out. So find fellow pilots to connect with. Find other creators to connect with and follow. And when you're connected with them, that gives you a chance to comment on their posts as well. So engage and find other like-minded people and leave thoughtful comments. Very few people, I don't know what the stat is, but if you look on all posts that people make, a lot of people give a clap, a lot of people give a thumbs up, very few people comment. Just simply taking the time to comment is going to help out tremendously because most people don't take the time to do that. So take time to comment as well. Number 8, track and celebrate wins. There's no reason to be obsessing over likes. The likes will come. Focus on making new connections. Focus on DMing people and people tagging you and celebrate the wins. It will come. You'll slowly build up more connections. The first few months of doing this, it's going to take a lot of time. But if you post every day and you comment every day and you engage every day with other people, the likes will eventually come. But this isn't about just likes. You want to make more connections with kind of thoughtful, like-minded people. All right. LinkedIn is free, but if you want to spend the money and really get the most out of it, upgrade to, they have a thing called Sales Navigator, or LinkedIn Business, I think they call it. It's $79 a month. It's worth every penny. It gives you a lot of extra tools. And if you want to learn more about that, DM me or get a hold of me afterwards. I can go into some more details about how Sales Navigator works and the value. But we've been Sales Navigator users for 4 or 5 years now, and it's worth every penny of the $79 we spend every month for the service. Well, with that, let's get to the next, what we've all come here for.
Please join me in welcoming today's speaker, Lee Fisher. With over 40 years of experience in aviation, from military bases to aerospace boardrooms, Lee has built a career grounded in safety, innovation, and technical excellence. He is a former senior staff engineer at Honeywell Aerospace. He led over 400 investigations and provided on-scene accident support with NTSB, National Transportation Safety Board, to shape global aviation safety standards. He's also a certified flight instructor and drone operator, passionate about mentoring the next generation of pilots and aviation entrepreneurs. We're honored to have him with us today. Please welcome Lee Fisher.
All right, Lee, welcome to the podcast. We appreciate you being here.
Yeah, nice to be here. I don't know if I live up to that introduction.
So Lee, give us a little background on how you kind of got into the accident investigation space, and then we'll kind of go through a little case study that you put together for us.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure being here. My background, actually, I didn't study to be a safety guy. I went to school in Kalamazoo, Michigan to be a commercial pilot. So I graduated with a bachelor's of science in flight technology. When I first got out of college, it was right after deregulation. Flying jobs were hard to find, and a friend of mine was working for General Dynamics on F-16s. And I was fortunate enough to get a job with General Dynamics out of Fort Worth, Texas. So they sent me to school for a year at their factory to learn the F-16. Then they sent me out to Edwards Air Force Base, which is out in Northern California. That's where they originally landed the space shuttle. And I spent 4 years out there with flight testing for a new weapon system for the F-16. After that time, I really didn't like California that much, more that I missed the Midwest. I really like the greens and the changing seasons. So another college friend of mine worked at Bendix in South Bend, Indiana. I got a job as a service representative for Bendix Corporation, and they specialized in fuel controls for gas turbine engines. So I became a service rep for them for about 5 years. I got the opportunity to travel all over the world. I set up the airline shops in Japan, in Germany, Malaysia, France, the Netherlands. So I got to spend a lot of time traveling and became very familiar with gas turbine engines and the fuel control systems. And about 5 years into that career, a position opened up in product safety. And I was fortunate enough to get that position. So I've been doing that for almost 38 years. They did send me out to the University of Southern California, where they have a training course. It's a series of classes. It takes about 2.5, 3 months to get through all the classes. But they teach you about fracture surfaces, human factors, litigation, all these different elements of doing an accident investigation. And since that time, I've gone to several of the NTSB classes and the FAA classes, but mostly the products that Honeywell is involved with, the large majority of them where the accidents are helicopters. So that's where I spent over 30 years doing helicopter accidents when it comes to the control systems for gas turbine engines.
Got it. What was your degree at Western? Was it engineering?
No, it was applied sciences, flight technology.
Got it.
So that's why I kept my flight instructor rating, and I kept it current. And so I currently fly a couple different airplanes, and I do a little teaching on the side to keep me busy.
Got it. So do you got your private pilot certificate at Western? Is that what one of the main reasons?
Yeah, I got all the way through my instrument, commercial, flight instructor rating, all at Western.
Beautiful. All right. Well, let's jump into it. I'd love to hear some of these examples of some of a case study of some of the work. So why don't we jump into the next slide?
I'm going to describe the fundamentals of accidents. I'm going to go through some case studies, and then I'm going to tie all that into how it applies to drones and what we're doing every single day out in the field. You know, accidents, we always call it the Swiss cheese. If you think about Swiss cheese, if you take a bunch of slices of Swiss cheese and you line them up perfectly, you can find a place where the hole goes all the way through. Well, each slice of the Swiss cheese represents one of the safeguards in the system that prevents accidents. Whether it's redundancy in an aircraft, you might have two engines or two pressurization systems. You notice most aircraft have two. One of the other one is a crew resource management, where you have a second pilot that watches the first pilot and smacks him if he throws the wrong switch. So in aviation safety or any kind of safety situation, there are multiple layers that need to be breached for an accident to happen. And so that's the theory behind the Swiss cheese model, is that all these conditions the planets have to line up perfectly. If you look at most accidents, it's not just one factor. It's a series of factors that all line up perfectly, and that's how we get accidents.
Got it. And most accidents are human error. I mean, it's very when of
Yes.
all the investigations you do, what it's 20% of the time, is that a good stat? Is it's something that's gone wrong with the aircraft?
Yes, it's very rarely a single part failure. I mean, they happen, and I can tell you about incidences where, one single part failure brought the helicopter down. But most of the time, it is either pilots, what we call a CFIT, which is controlled flight into terrain, okay, where they just flew into the ground. They flew into bad weather, okay. They made poor decisions on reviewing the weather and then taking off. They're overstressed. They weren't prepared. And I'm going to go through some of those elements for the human factor side. I'm going to try to quickly go through just a couple case studies. This was now the company I worked for, Honeywell, at the time, they also made brakes. So this accident was in 1999. It was an MD-80. It was nighttime. They were on a flight from Fort Worth to Little Rock. They landed at night. The weather was absolutely terrible. The airplane, their approach, it was not stabilized, and I can go into those details, but there was multiple factors that led to this aircraft not even skidding. He's kind of skipped down the runway and went off the other end of the runway, went down this embankment and hit these stanchions, and the airplane broke apart and caught fire.
Okay.
So some of the factors involved in this were the pilots were direct. They expected one runway, but they decided to do a different runway, which complicated things for them. Their weather radar, it only looks forward, so we call it they shot this approach into what we call a bowling alley. The weather was on both sides of the runway. Two great big storms were right on both sides of the runway. They didn't really realize that. But the main factor is if you're not familiar with large aircraft like this, if you're ever sitting over the wing, and when they come into land, you'll see these great big like doors flop out. Okay. They're called spoilers. The spoilers come up and they totally disrupt all the lift of the wing and put all the weight of the aircraft on the main gear. Well, those spoilers are armed to weight on wheel switches, okay? And you have to arm them. So once you arm them, when the weight on the wheels, when the aircraft realizes it's on the ground, these spoilers come up, it puts the weight of the aircraft on the runway, and they didn't arm these. So they really only had about 15% of the weight of the aircraft actually on the runway. Yeah, there's the 15%. So there were several factors in this accident. One was it was a very senior captain that was flying, and the first officer was a younger guy, and he didn't really want to question the captain very much. And so the crew resource management broke down in the cockpit. Also, the discipline. Here's the probable cause by the NTSB. They decided to continue the approach despite the severe thunderstorms. They failed to deploy the spoilers. All right. Crew fatigue. They were at the end of their schedule, basically. They were under a lot of stress to get the airplane home. They violated the airline limits when it came to the crosswind component. They violated that. What you don't realize with the two engines up on the back and the tail like that, he used excessive reverse thrust, and you guys have seen those clamshells that come out, or on the bigger airplanes, so it looks like the whole cowling moves forward and the aircraft goes into reverse. On this aircraft, both engines are located up on the tail at the back of the airplane, and they have these clamshells that kind of look like this to make the airflow go backwards. Well, if you overboost, in other words, once you deploy those and you throttle the engines up, you wash out the effectiveness of the rudder. So they had no rudder control. So you talk about multiple factors that happen. That's the statement about the excessive reverse thrust on the airplane. I'll tell you one really fascinating thing that's not in the slides. I thought it was really interesting. was that we could go out and walk on the runway. The tire guys, you could find the marks in the runway because the wheel wasn't skidding, but it was spinning. And there was so much water on the runway because it was raining so heavy that it pushed the water out of the way of the wheel, and it left marks, white marks on the runway because the runway has a lot of rubber on it, right, from landings. So we could actually go out and plot the main touchdown points, when the nose wheel came down, and then how the airplane cocked as it went down the runway. It went off the other end of the runway at over 80 miles an hour. So yeah, that was pretty interesting. The next one is just, this is a photograph I took. This was more of a funny incident. You know, we did international accidents, and I think this happened over in Brazil. This was a helicopter that went down about 100 yards offshore, and they couldn't get the helicopter out right away, and they just let the waves literally roll the helicopter up onto the beach. This photograph is inside a fuel control, and there's not supposed to be any sand in there. I mean, you can see the two springs and a lever on your right-hand side. But it was, you know, as the aircraft the helicopter rolled up onto the beach, it literally drove sand inside our fuel control and packed it in there like that. So when I opened the fuel control up, it was full of sand.
Wow. Not a good combination.
The last accident I will go through, this is relatively recent, and you might be familiar with the Chinooks. This is a twin-powered helicopter that the military uses. They use them a lot in logging and all that kind of stuff. This aircraft was doing a firefighting mission, and they were, you guys are probably familiar with Bambi buckets, where they have a bucket slung underneath the helicopter, and they dip it in the lake or a pool, and then they go drop it. So in this case, they had video, which really helped with the accident investigation. They were dipping, and the aircraft started to rotate to the right, and it continued to rotate to the right. And then it lost altitude and impacted the water. It killed both pilots. It was a pretty violent accident. One of the two pilots dropped their iPad, and the iPad went down by their feet, and it got stuck behind the rudder pedals, which control the yaw of the airplane. And the way we were able to figure that out is that the way the iPad was crushed, we could match up the marks on the iPad with the backside of the rudder pedals. So this was, you know, a really tragic accident, but it just goes to show how something very simple as a loose iPad in the cockpit could cause an accident. I'll quickly go through this. You know, as pilots, we're taught the I'm Safe checklist, and it stands for illness, medication, stress, alcohol, fatigue, and motion. And these are the things that you should go through, even when you're flying a drone. You may want to check out, am I really, do I feel ill? Am I on medication that might affect my decision-making abilities? Am I under a lot of stress? Is alcohol playing any kind of role in my ability to think straight? Am I extremely fatigued? And my emotional state? So, do I go through I'm safe every time I go to fly? No. When I fly my drone? No. But I think about it. If I didn't sleep well and I don't feel well and things like that, it's just something to be aware of and to think about. Every time you go to fly your drone, you probably ought to check yourself, because really, you could fly your drone into a power substation and cause all kinds of problems. We all know that. You're up in the airspace, you need to be aware of these things. Obviously, we talk about PPE. That's very important. I always put mine in the parking lot. I make sure that I have steel toes. I've had safety inspectors come up and ask me, hey, are those safety glasses, or where's your steel toes if they're required? So I always keep those in a bag in my truck. So I always make sure I have the proper PPE. One thing I'll mention to you real quick, when I went on to one of the Amazon sites, they require very specific hard hats. And I told the guy, I'm going to be out here every week for, a year. I know you got a Connex over there full of safety, full of hard hats. So I was able to talk him out of a hard hat, so I didn't have to go buy one of the specific ones. But make sure you got your PPE when you head to the job site. It'll make a difference. Airspace and site hazards. We all know the Lance, if you're flying in controlled airspace, We know there's geofencing when it comes to the drones that you have to be aware of. Tony does a great job of checking that for you. Drone Brothers does a great job of getting any special FAA releases for you, because I flew right next to the airport on a demolition site, and you guys took care of everything for me. But think about the airspace you're flying in and site hazards. They told me that no cranes would be above 220 feet, and I went out and if I see one, I'll go fly up to it and check the altitude. And if I would have flown that mission, I would have hit that thing, because one of my grid patterns went right into the crane. So make sure you look around, be aware of your airspace, then look around for site hazards. I try to stay off the actual construction sites if I can, because there's so many vehicles moving around. Your head's down looking at your controller. And some of these places you got to be on a swivel. So another thing I'll mention about that is if you talk to the site supervisor, a lot of times they'll set up an area for you to fly from. They'll rope off an area, they'll designate if it's a real busy site. So that's something to think about also when it comes to site hazards. I have certain dates that when my 107 expires, when my flight certificate, when my medical expires, and I put them in my calendar. So make sure that you put the stuff in your calendar, because the last thing you want to do is get out on a site and have some kind of issue and find out that your 107 recurrent training expired.
Yeah.
So that's
if you got, insurance requires that on all flights. If you, God forbid, something does happen, they're not going to cover you if you're not current.
That's a good point. So, yep. When it comes to safety, the one site I was flying, when I first started flying the site, it was just a big open field, and another truck pulled up, and I noticed that he had I was pretty sure it was a drone, great big box in the back of his truck, and it was one of the guys that is additionally flying the site that I'm flying on. So I got his phone number. We communicate when we're flying the site. We talk about what altitudes we're flying from, what launch locations, and when we're flying, because I don't really want to get interfered with. And that also goes with the site manager or site coordinator. You may want to talk to them about coordinating where you're flying from, when you're flying. Is anybody else going to be flying that site?
Yeah, just want to pick up on that point with Lee. Get in the habit of, a lot of guys just show up, they park their car, they launch from the front seat of their car, or they put the drone on the tailgate of their car and launch from there. Take the extra couple minutes to walk into the trailer, say hello to the superintendent, make sure you let him know that you're there, because he may tell you about safety issues or things going on. And more today than a year ago or 2 years ago, there are multiple drones that could be out flying the site. The earthwork company could have their own drone. You don't want to have two drones crisscrossing in the sky doing a mapping mission, because it's just a high chance of something really bad happening. So check in with the site soup before you launch. Let him know you're there, because he'll get you up to speed on that stuff.
Yeah. And additionally, they can tell you about any things that are coming up, any opportunities that might be out there for, hey, we're doing a big pour that we want to make sure you capture. Hey, there's a final beam setting that we want to get. And so keep your ears open for new opportunities also. So there you go.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. We appreciate it.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, and thanks, Andrew. And thanks, Lee.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. We'll talk to you guys next month.
Thanks for tuning in to Drone Brothers Radio. Be sure to subscribe and share this episode as we continue exploring how drones are transforming the construction industry.